September 11th, 2001. A traditional day met with bountiful sunshine, birds singing their melodies, and leaves transforming their colors to make way for fall. A morning that commenced like many others before it. Families together over breakfast, preparing for their day ahead. Children safe in their classrooms, people commuting and arriving for another productive day at work. The list carries on. Until the unspeakable happened. Acts that impetuously ripped through our core and forever altered American soil. Where were you and what were you doing on that fateful day? A single question making its rounds even 20 years later. One which consistently blooms into a sundry of shared answers, all bound together by a searing collective memory of the day that changed America forever. The day that tore through our souls, the day that tried to bind us by fear, the day that questioned our innocence, the day when sadness and anger eclipsed our joy and comfort, the day we would never forget. When the dark clouds and dismal dust started to settle, a miraculous shift happened. Throughout those 102 disquieting and tormenting minutes, where ruthless malice and terror bestowed our nation, and in the days and weeks that followed, we began to reflect. We began to unify more than ever before. We began to realize that this was the day that brought us together. This was the day that unified fellow brothers and sisters. This was the day when we faced and rose above the depravity, reclaiming our victory and the true symbol of what it is to be an American. We tirelessly honor and commemorate our first responders, our fellow citizens who were lost but never forgotten, and their loving family members, friends, and co-workers who stoically carry on. You see, the tragic events that took place on this day 20 years ago are not only singed into our collective memories, but endlessly serve as a reflective reminder to carry on the legacy of what they symbolize. The essential quest for brotherhood, the unwavering courage to fight for our freedom, the unyielding acts of bravery and selflessness to help those in dire need, the beauty that embodies what it is to be an American, the valor in rising out of the ashes and uniting to mend our anger, sorrow, and pain. This is the September 11th promise to us all, one that will always exist, but will only work when each of us fully grasps onto it. Excuse me. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight as we remember, reflect, honor, and unite. Welcome to 9/11, 20 years later, a tribute. I'm your host, Nicole Strickland. I'm co-host of Haunted Voices Radio and host of the Afterlife Chronicles. Joining me tonight is Todd Bates, a WLTK-db station owner and host of Haunted Voices Radio, and Diet Renee, host of Schooled Through Spirit. Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good. Yeah, what a day. I can't believe this has been 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I mean,
crazy.
It's everyone you talk to has a clear memory of exactly what they were doing that day and where they were. And it's just at least in the people that I've talked to, it's interesting. I love New York City and I first went there when I was in 8th grade. It was a school trip. And then I told my mom, I was like, oh, Mom, I have to take you to New York City. You're going to love it. And so then her and I went later on that year. And then we used to take summer trips every summer for about a week, and we'd stay in New York City and do all the fun New York stuff. And we were actually there. It was the last week of July in 2001, and we actually took a ferry across to the New Jersey side just so we could sit there and look at the skyline. And I remember looking at the skyline and just, how beautiful it was. And then like not even 2 months later, this happened.
Wow.
So yeah, it's insane. Absolutely insane. What about you guys? What were you doing that day?
Yeah, ladies first.
Girls first, huh?
No, ladies first.
Well, thank you for that. For myself, back then, I was nursing. So I'd had a pretty established nursing career. And I was working in critical psych care, which was a county facility for people that would come in for like 10 days at a time, which was already pretty huge because it's a government building that I was working in, although it being in Wisconsin. But being in the town that I live in Janesville, we used to have, I believe it was 2 or 3 factories here for making bombs and things of that nature, things for war. So even though I think at that point we were down to 1 factory and the other ones had closed down because of the threat of possibly being a targeted city, the city was kind of shut down around us.
Wow.
So I was at work that morning. I remember looking up and seeing it just going, wow, in amazement. And honestly, for my
beauty of the internet.
Yep, gotta love the internet.
But I was still having. We had the news, we had this, we had that. Because of the situation where I was working at, we had to create life as normal. At the end of the day, how severely it had been impacted, because I did work I was working at a county facility. We still had phones operation. I could call the jail all day long. I could call other government lines because I was working, for that. When I got home, I found out my phone didn't work. I found out they hadn't been working for anybody throughout the day because they really kind of essentially shut down our town. So that's how my day was really impacted firsthand. So the gravity, it already hit, but the reality wasn't really until later on that day.
Yeah, and I think that's for a lot of people. I was home early that morning that day, and I remember putting the TV on, and I actually witnessed, I believe it was the South Tower falling live on TV. Wow. And these were buildings that I've been in several times. I used to go shopping down at the, I think it was called the Mall of America down below, and I've taken the elevator all the way up to the 110th story, floor. I've gone to the observatory on top, and I've eaten at Windows on the World, the very most famous restaurant there in New York City, at the top of the towers. And it's like seeing them fall. It was like unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. But yeah,
it was something else. I saw the whole thing on television. I was in my lawyer's office. Saw the whole thing unfold, one thing after another. We all stood there. Of course, everything was shut down. Pretty much immediately, everything was canceled. So we just sat there together watching everything unfold on television. And outside, you could hear a pin drop.
Oh, yeah.
Outside, everybody was home. No one was on the streets. That's what I remember. I remember the eerie silence, when that happened. And it was just watching something that size. And it really taught me a lesson of just how big those towers were and how many people were inside of those. When you see those struck and the way they came toppling down and the people jumping for their lives because they had no other choice. These are things that you cannot unsee. You can never forget these things no matter what. And it's good to talk about them. It's good to get these feelings out and have tribute shows like this. It's just good closure because there really wasn't any. There really wasn't any.
Yeah, that's very well said. And there's been so many people born since 9/11, and sadly, some of them don't even have a memory of that day. And it's such a tragic event that, in a way has taught us so much. The bravery and the courage and the selflessness and the unity, all comes from that. And that's something that, it's taught me. It's, taught me to be a little bit more, I guess, observant of other people, and to pay attention more to helping others if they're if they're in need of help, and just that bond and unity and this sense of like brotherhood and sisterhood. It's affected me in that way. So,
Yeah. The unity that I've seen and still see, but what I saw, I mean, a country coming together like it did, because there was so much bickering. There was so much, so many different this and that's going on. And to see all of that drop for just a moment, and people coming together, and then more and more came and helped. So it was amazing to see something like that. And I'll never forget how everybody came together at all these multiple locations all over the world. This was a global thing. It affected everybody globally.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. It was huge.
I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Dia?
No, I just said it was huge. It really was. It affected so many people.
Yeah, I mean, it really did. And, there's so many things going on. I mean, I just learned recently about the 9/11 trail. I think it's like around 1,300 miles, that it's this trail that connects all three sites. So it's the Pentagon, the Flight 93 National Memorial, and of course, Ground Zero, where the towers were. And, just all these things like that, and the memorials that have come about as a part of this. It leaves that lasting reminder, and it's there for you to always honor and remember. And so insane. It's have you guys been to the Flight 93 Memorial or the World Trade Center Memorial?
Neither.
No, I have experienced the memorial over there in quite a unique way. I was living in Hayward, Wisconsin, and there was just no time at that point in my life. I could have had the means of the way to really get there and experience it. So a friend of mine, who's just a wonderful, wonderful person, was going over to it. And what he did, for whatever reason, I don't know why he thought about me, but he did, and literally took pictures of everything as he was going and sent them to me to share, as if he was just a friend, but just literally shared every moment.
Wow.
Everything at work, just crying because it was so impactful, and just to be able to be that and experience it on that level. I wasn't there, but I think because I had the time on my own to experience each of those pictures almost in real time, it was
right.
really impactful.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
The Flight 93 Memorial is probably one of the most beautiful, serene memorials ever built. And those passengers and crew of that flight, what they executed in those last minutes, they were like the true embodiment of what it is to be an American, faced with such terror, probably knowing that they were going to pass, but yet doing what they did. Unbelievable. We owe it to them.
Yeah.
We owe it to them. So, and what's interesting, well, I keep saying what's interesting. I don't even know why I said that. My brain today. But yesterday, I was very lucky to interview Greg Kyling, who also lives in San Diego, California. Both him and I knew Diora Bodley, who was a passenger on Flight 93. She graduated from La Jolla Country Day School in San Diego, and then was attending college at Santa Clara University. Went out and visited one of her really good friends, and actually, to my knowledge, was supposed to be booked on a later flight, but she wanted to get home early, which is absolutely understandable because her classes were starting, and got to the airport early and got on Flight 93. So she is one of the Flight 93 heroes, and we're very honored to have Greg Kylie joining us. Again, I did the interview yesterday. He's actually done a lot of fundraising. He's done a lot for the Flight 93 Memorial. He raised funds for the Tower of Voices and continues to this day doing a lot of fundraising for 9/11, and he's an advocate for Diora. He has a team in San Diego called Team Diora, so they help fundraise and do a lot of wonderful things in her memory. So again, it was an honor to interview him yesterday, and we do have the interview now that we're going to play. Again, his name is Greg Kyling of San Diego, California. So enjoyed this interview. It was an honor to talk with him yesterday. We have a very special guest joining us. We are very honored to have him. His name is Greg Kyling, and he is a Friends of Flight 93 member, Flight 93 National Memorial fundraiser, and has done a lot of work through his volunteer work. And him and I both have something in common. We both knew Diora Bodley of San Diego, California. Tragically, she was on Flight 93 on September 11th, 2001. So Greg is joining us today to share his story and Diora's story and talk to us a little bit about his fundraising efforts. So Greg, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Nicole, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really an honor to have you. And I know, with the anniversary, everyone's emotions are kind of swirling. I know mine are as well.
Yeah.
So for you to take the time out to do this is just very, very generous. So thank you so much.
Well,
yeah. So you knew Diora Bodley. Did you go to high school with her? Is that how you met?
No, we actually met. Diora and I were like 10 years apart. So definitely we didn't meet in high school, but she was in high school when
Oh my gosh, you look young. My goodness, I would have never guessed.
Oh, thank you. You're sweet. Yeah, so she was a senior at La Jolla Country Day, and she was volunteering at Helen Woodward Animal Center. And
right.
At the time we met, I was working at a residential treatment center here in San Diego with kids who were child abuse victims and had a lot of psychiatric and behavior issues as a result of their abuse. And every Wednesday we would take the kids to Helen Woodward to learn about the animals. The volunteers would work with them, and the kids would sit in a circle and they would bring out like the rabbits and things like that. And then the other half of the day they would ride the horses around the arena. And throughout that time we were there, it was about a 2-hour stay every Wednesday. And not every Wednesday, but a good amount of those Wednesdays, Diora was there. And that's how we met, was at Helen Woodward. And when we weren't working with the kids, like when we have side conversations or whatever, it was about, basically music and tattoos. Those were kind of our two common interests.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what got us talking, was that. And so our conversations were fun, and she was just such a fun person and just such a positive person, and the thing that was so great that I took from Helen Woodward when we had Diora as a volunteer was watching her work with the kids. And it's like, these kids have been through hell and beyond, at very young ages, and she made them forget about all that stuff for 2 hours every week.
That is phenomenal. That's a gift that you can't teach. That's something that is innate.
It was just something she was born with, and she just, the kids just really took to her. And it was just nice to see them not acting out, not upset, not, cursing us out or whatever, all the things that we would do as staff, the things we would have to deal with and help the kids with, and it was just like, you would never know. Like a lay person that came in there would not know those kids were in a treatment center for abuse. Like, they just look like typical kids having fun at the animal center, and it was all because of her.
And I can assure you that,
right.
I mean, making that lasting impression on you as well as the kids. And I can guarantee you that that was the light of their week. So they enjoyed going there for sure. I know that she wanted to aspire to be a child psychologist. I actually met Diora in high school. I went to University of San Diego High School, which is now Cathedral Catholic, but I remember meeting her in high school, and we hung out a couple of times. And like you said, it was just, she emanated this bright light, this positivity, just very, very good with people. And so even for the short time that I knew her, she made a lasting impression on me. So when I found out on 9/11 of 2001 that she was on that flight, oh my gosh. I mean, I can't even describe the feelings that I had. So
yeah, I actually found out that she was on that flight 8 days after, because as we all remember, September 11th was a Tuesday, and remember it clear as day. I was at work. I just got to work, and the staff came into the nursing office as I was clocking in, and he had this, the way he said it, I'll never forget it. He wasn't like scared or like angry or upset. It was more curiosity in his voice. And he was like, a plane crashed into the World Trade Center. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I went into he's like, yeah, it's all over the news. And I turned on the television, and at that point it was like about 5 minutes to 7 here. So it would have been 5 minutes to 10 in East Coast time in New York. And at that point, both towers had been hit. And within like 2 minutes of trying to figure out what I was looking at, suddenly all this smoke started pouring out of the South Tower. Like, I thought the fire got bigger or whatever. And I did not realize that Tower 2 was literally collapsing in front of everybody's eyes that was watching it. And it's like all of a sudden the phone rang, and it's our director of nursing, and she's like, shut off the TV. Like, we have to create a safety plan for the kids. They cannot be exposed to this right now and everything. So it was a pretty chaotic morning. And then the next day was Wednesday, and that's a day we typically would go to Helen Woodward, but they were closed because of what was happening. Then we went the following Wednesday. And because at that point it was like, they were open at that point again, and the kids really needed to get out there. And, so we got there, and the staff at Helen Woodward, they were the ones who told me that they were informed by, I don't know if it was Debbie or somebody, they had informed Helen Woodward that Diora was on Flight 93. And I was shocked. I threw up in a trash can in the supervisor's office when they told me, and man, I couldn't even drive the kids back to the center. Like, somebody had to come to the center and get me and bring me home, and they took over for me. It was just like, I was just useless at that point. And they say never forget, and you don't. If you're affected like we are, you don't, whether you want to or not, we'll always remember it.
Exactly.
It's part of our brain.
It is part of it. Yeah, it's part of our fabric. It's like a scab that peels off every year, and the wound is exposed again. Right. And they say that because so many people tragically perished, they say, chances are everyone most likely knew someone or knew of someone that passed away on 9/11. And even within the 3 attack sites, Diora had connections. I think she had a friend whose uncle was in one of the towers, and there was some other connection with the Pentagon, But you're right. Like you were saying, it's like, I've had so many conversations with people. My father's, friend's brother worked in Tower 2. You hear, it's like, there's some sort of connection. When you think about it, it's just incredible in terms of, yes, 2,977 people is a lot of people. But when you're talking about a nation of 40 million, to have conversations with people randomly and they have a connection, it really shows you the impact of what happened that morning. The whole country was affected by it, Absolutely. California itself. We're on the opposite side of the country, and California lost over 500 people. So California residents or people that were born in California or, lived here at the time. It was over 500 from what I recall. So, it's devastating. It's devastating on so many levels. And, like you said, there's so many connections. I actually was in New York City with my mom July. It was the end of like the last week of July in 2001. And we took a ferry across from Manhattan to New Jersey just to get an idea, or not an idea, but to see the skyline.
Right.
And I remember sitting on a bench and just kind of like in a meditative mode, like staring out, looking at the gorgeous skyline of Manhattan. Not,
Right.
you know, and then just like not even 2 months later, this happened. It's insane.
It is.
I also knew a couple staff members that worked on Windows on the World. At the restaurant at top of the World Trade Center. It's just the connections. When I found out, like you, when I found out that Diora was on Flight 93, I mean, I already had a lot of grief from it, but that just made it was like the icing on the cake. And I've never cried so much that day.
Yeah.
You know, I've never cried as much.
That was the thing. It was like, for me, it's like, I was in shock and anxiety driven and everything on 9/11 based on what was happening and all the uncertainty, and everything. And it was like after, that morning, it's like, I was in the nursing office and this girl, Brenda, stuck her head into the nursing office and she said, another plane just went down in Pennsylvania. I'll never forget that. And I was like, good God, like, holy shit, when is this going to be over? And then it was like, 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and it was silence. And it was that was very anxiety driving for me, because I was like, where's the next one? Like, is it going to be here? We're a military town. I was like, when's it over? And then like finally probably that evening, I was like, okay, I think they've done what they came to do. And then, on the 19th of September is when I found out about Diora. So all of a sudden it was like, it took me right back to that morning, but 1,000 times worse, 1,000 times worse. I mean,
I can't even imagine. I mean, I even saw Ground Zero in November, 2 months after. And when I took a cab down there, I went out there to pay my respects. And when I took a cab down there to Ground Zero, I got out, my legs were so weak, I actually fell to the ground, just sobbing my eyes out. It's, everyone reacts differently, but with Diora, Helen Woodward Animal Center is such, oh my gosh, I've been out there. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So when Diora went off to college, she went to Santa Clara University, as you know. Did you keep in touch with her in college at all?
That was the thing. Like, I lost touch with her. Like, I would see her like once a week or once every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, it just depended on when she was at the animal center. I never saw her outside the animal center, and understandably so. I mean, we were running in different social circles, I mean, I was 30. Right. She's, well, at that point she was, I was like 20, what was it? I was like 28. She was like 19, 18, right, whatever. And, so we were on different playing fields. She couldn't get in bars yet, I mean, I'm sure she figured out ways, but, I never saw her in my social circle. But the beautiful thing about the music, just a side note, the beautiful thing about the music scene here in San Diego is when I do these benefit shows that I'll talk about later, everybody that comes to the shows, they take her. And she's living inside all of us. I mean, it's that obvious. Like, people talk about her, like they talk about her first name. Like, they talk about her like they just care so much, you know what I mean? And when her mom would come to the shows, it's like, parting of the Red Sea. I mean, it's like everybody out of the way, you know what I mean? And like, she's just everybody at the venues, they're just so accommodating. Dude, it's just, I can't say enough about the music scene. I know I went off on a different direction there, but
no, this is what this is for.
She would have loved Brick by Brick, where I do the shows, and her mom said that the very first show she came to years ago, she's like, oh my gosh, she would love this place, and that was nice to hear, because it was just a reassurance, like how we did connect on music, you know what I mean? And it would have been great to experience that with her. I've always wished I could have had that experience, but
I know, but you know what? She lives on in all of us, and in a way, whether you believe or not, she is there. She is with you and with everyone. My really
absolutely.
good friend Gary Mance spoke to her mom. I think it was last week as well on his show, and he said what a wonderful person Debbie is. So I mean, obviously, Dior is kind of, not kind of, she inherited that generosity and that, emanating a bright light from her mom, it sounds like. And I'll never forget her ever.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm thinking of her right now, and I just remember that bright smile she always had. It's just, smiles don't always affect you, but in some people they do.
The photo I sent you of the chalk art, of her from the memorial. So I have that photo. It's like huge, and Debbie gave it to me back in 2007, and that smile that's like her signature to me, I think of other photos I've seen of her that Debbie shared with me. Like, I think it was, I don't know, her birthday or someone's birthday. It looks like it was Dior's birthday because she's sitting in the middle and she's surrounded by her friends. And she has the same exact look on her face. Like her hair's just a little short, but it's like if you just took her face and put it over the other picture, it would be identical. Like you would not know it was a different picture. And her smile is just so radiant. It's just radiant. And
absolutely,
it just speaks volumes about who she was as a person and how she still inspires so many people to do great things.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
She was in a way living out the September 11th promise before 9/11, being that she understood greatly at a young age the importance of togetherness, the importance of brotherhood and sisterhood and being there for other people and all of that. Yeah. So, it's she lives on in so many hearts. I see behind you that you have some photos of your
trips to the memorial those. And so let me see if I can get out of the way here. Which way do I go?
I love the UA 93 license plate.
The plate.
That's awesome.
Those pictures in there from my very first visit. It was December 26th of 2006. It took me over 5 years to muster the courage to go there. And that was the life-changing moment. I should say that was a life-changing moment for me in a positive way. And I can talk about that, was that visit. And then above that, the plate. And then that's my, we got a plaque for the team I created for the 9/11 stick climb. We're Team Diora. And that was sent to me. And then the picture at the top there, let's see if I can, there. That is the Tower of Voices, which is an element at the Flight 93 National Memorial. And I specifically raised money for that piece.
Oh, my gosh.
Debbie and I talked very early on about that. And she was like, when you send the check, just write in the memo, Tower of Voices. She's like, they don't like that kind of stuff, but do it. And I was like, yeah, of course. And so I did that. And raised over $18,000 towards the tower, and inside the tower there's 40 different wind chimes, and they're all different sizes, and each one represents a passenger or crew member. And so it's like they have their own distinct sound to represent their individuality, but then they come together and play this incredible music that signifies them as a group, that made a difference on 9/11. And
the Flight 93 Memorial is arguably, the most beautiful, tranquil memorial ever.
I would agree with that. It's very peaceful, and it's the only memorial that I know of that tells the story, not just of Flight 93, but it tells the story of September 11th from beginning to end. And all of that's incorporated into the memorial, and it's all Paul Murdoch was the architect. And what a great guy he was. I actually, when I was flying out for the groundbreaking ceremony in 2009, I coincidentally ended up on the same flight as Paul. And it was funny because I saw him in the by the gate, and I'm looking at him, and because Debbie was like, he's really tall, he has a huge mustache, and Debbie told him, oh, if you see Greg, he's like, yay high. His arms are covered in tattoos. And like, he looked at me, I looked at him, and he was like, Greg? And I was like, yeah. And then like, we just hit it off, we started talking and stuff. And so he's the one who designed all this. And what's so great about the memorial is when you go, especially starting up at the visitor center and the learning center, there's a walkway that you walk down. And it has a timeline on the walkway as you're walking. And it says like in the beginning, 8:46 and 40. And that's got American Airlines Flight 11. And that's when North Tower was struck, and then so forth. And then there isn't one for Flight 93 at the very end. After the Pentagon mark on the walkway, it leads you out to the very end of the walkway. And it's a glass window that you're kind of standing in front of. And it says a common field one day, a field of honor forever. And that path goes straight as an arrow to the actual impact spot.
Impact site. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like you're there and you kind of look down and you can see the wall of names, which is right in line also with the flight path. And then beyond the flight of names out in the field is where the boulder sits.
You mentioned flight path, and that's one thing I wanted to mention. The way the architecture is structured, it looks like it's basically how it goes up at an angle. It is basically the flight path.
Yeah.
All of those little...
It was up, and then like where the wall ends on the walkway where the visitor centers is, it drops down. So it's kind of like exactly what you're saying. Like it's kind of and it was flying, and I know prior to it diving, they turned it upside down in the final moments, I guess, to try and throw the passengers off their feet. But it's just such a heroic story. I think that it represents democracy. It represents heroism and unity and selflessness.
Exactly.
And, it's one of those things where someone like Diora, who was so selfless, in a weird way, it makes sense that she would have been on that flight, because they made the difference that morning. They made the difference. And they were the first victory in the war on terror.
And all of them together,
they were successful. They
board a plane.
Gave their lives, but they were successful in their, stopping countless people from being killed in Washington at the Capitol.
Thousands.
And that's something that every time and this has gone on since day one, whenever the news is on, I try to avoid watching the news, to be honest with you, but like
I do too. Mm-hmm.
They'll show the Capitol in the background. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's standing there because of Diora. That building is still standing because of her. And I remember when they inducted Obama into the White House, and they swore him in front on the Capitol steps, and I just remember thinking that, like, they changed the course of history that morning. And,
they really did. They really did.
And
boarding a plane, not really knowing anyone. Well, the flight attendants and crew knew each other, but the passengers most likely, unless they were traveling together, I think a few of them were.
There was a few
didn't know each other. Right. But then, just minutes later, they're collaborating and they're collectively joining.
Right.
To do what they did is just
to do what they did. Yeah. Absolutely. And it was in such a short window of time. I mean, it was 35 minutes from the initial hijacking starting until it crashed. And for them to come together and do what they did is just beyond words, really.
It is beyond words to me. It really is.
It's a completely unprecedented act, No one in history has ever done that before, and obviously so it's like there were advantages to their situation, obviously, versus the other flights. The reasoning behind that is like, I take appreciation and sadness in this one particular fact is that Diora's flight was delayed like 40 minutes getting out of Jersey. So that allowed them to have the time to find out what was going on in New York and Washington through phone calls on the flight. But what kills me is that had they been delayed another 4 or 5 minutes, it's like, would they have taken off? Because directly across the river from the runway was when the World Trade Center got attacked. So it's like, but again, it's like one of those things. It's one of those questions that I will never get an answer for, and sometimes I got to tell myself to let that stuff go. Yeah. But I am grateful, given their situation, that they were able to act and dictate how this was going to play out. The terrorists failed that mission miserably, and our guys were heroes in that situation.
Without a doubt.
They set the precedent. I mean, in December of 2001, that shoe bomber douchebag, the passengers overpowered him. Mm-hmm. The guy in 2009, Christmas 2009, on the flight going into Detroit, the passengers overpowered him. And it's like they learned that from 93. And that was the thing. They said, no more, you guys are not going to hijack another plane and take it into a target. This ends now. And that has been the case since that morning. So
continuing on the legacy of Flight 93, without a doubt.
Yes.
So how was it for you? I mean, this kind of sounds like a dumb question, but how was it for you visiting the Flight 93 Memorial for the very first time?
Well, it was initially difficult. I remember like the way it is now, where the entrance is now to the memorial is the exact opposite of where it used to be. Like in the early years, when it was just a temporary memorial, you came in from behind the sacred ground. Like there was a road, an access road, gravel road or whatever. And I just remember sitting in the back seat, and I was kind of like in a ball, I was really nervous. And we're driving, and it's like trees all around us, and then all of a sudden the tree line stops, and we're going up the road. And I look off to the left, and I saw the fence with the flag on it. And
Yep.
I lost it big time when that happened. I was a mess, and took a few minutes for me to get my composure. And then we got up to the temporary site. At the time, it was like you see in the photographs I have, it was just like a 40 foot chain link fence that was covered in mementos that people had left there. And there were benches made by, I think it was the local high school kids. They had made benches and engraved the names of the passengers and crew into the benches. And then along the front of the temporary memorial were these 40 angels that were made out of popsicle sticks and things like that. Yeah. And that sat about 800 yards or so back from the crash site. And I remember just standing there looking out, and it was it was the day after Christmas. And, I'm sure the weather in Pennsylvania in the winter can be brutal. And I just remember standing there, and it was like wet snow. And there was also this little like hut, I guess you would call it, the Flight 93 ambassadors who were on duty were standing inside there. And like my parents went in there, and there were some other visitors, and they were educating them on the story and things like that. And I'm outside by myself. And I remember like off to the right, there was a American, flagpole with an American flag on it. And hanging also on the flagpole was a wooden cross. And I can remember the cross like banging against the pole. And like clear as day, like it was 5 minutes ago. And I just started talking to her. And she like came back at me and was like, you need to channel all this crap into something positive, basically. And was like, we both love music. You are so tied into the music scene. You want to honor my memory, get bands together and raise money for this memorial. And it was like in that moment, it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And it was just like, I just started bawling right there. But it was like happy. It was like this relief, this anger and sadness that I've been carrying for over 5 years. It was gone. Like it just washed away. And like, I could not wait to get back to San Diego at that point. I was like, I already had bands
rock and roll.
All these like places to play. And it's just been such an incredible journey. The bands are just so like, it got to the point where it just literally took on a life of its own. Like I would reserve a date, on or around the anniversary. And the first one was so good. We did another one like 3 months later. And 3 months later. Yeah. And then it got to the point where, you know what, let's do one on or around Dior's birthday in April. So I was doing them I got to the point where I was doing them in April, and I was doing them around the anniversary. And it was like, I would get the date and just go on social media and be like, I've reserved this date. Any bands that are interested. And it was just like within a day, boom, 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 boom. Like the bill was filled like instantly. And that's the thing.
Helping
it's
you
a
with
benefit
that.
show.
Yeah.
Like these guys aren't getting paid. They're doing it because they're good people,
Continuing her legacy, the legacy of 9/11. I mean, she's with
it's
you
like her
all the way.
selflessness is
Oh my
still
gosh.
on to so many people,
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
For people to jump at the bit to play a show, and bands that have driven from Arizona, Northern California, you know what I mean? Coming down from like Concord to play this show and loving it, you can just see it. They're just so excited to be a part of it.
And that's her light, that's her energy infusing in everything.
Again, that's her living inside all of us. Like that's what I see.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not
And
sadness, I mean, it's like, because I've done the show on the anniversary a few times, and it's like, it's emotional, but it's like, it's more fun. You know what I mean? And that's how she would want it. I know she wouldn't want us mourning and crying all day long. It's like, that is going to just happen no matter what. But it's like, make it as positive as possible also. And that's what I do. Like tomorrow, we'll get up and I'll meet with my team and we'll go downtown and we're going to climb 110 stories,
amazing.
Yeah.
I've done that before. It's such a good feeling to do that.
Love it.
I can't even describe it to you.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so the 9/11 stair climb, I've been doing that for years. And then last year, obviously it didn't happen because of the pandemic, but my friend Judy's on my team. We were like, we're still climbing. So we need to figure out a plan. So she talked with the management of her office building, which is 22 stories. Nice. And she was like, we can do it in my office building if you want. And I was like, hell yeah, we're doing it. So we did it. We climbed the stairwells 5 times to equal 110 stories. And we made it very much like the traditional San Diego stair climb. We had images from that morning in the stairwells and music and all this stuff to motivate you, Yeah. And this year it's going to be, it'll be more like 6 or 7 of us doing it tomorrow. And it's like, I'm trying to follow the way the traditional stair climb goes. Like we'll start at the bottom of the stairs with a moment of silence at 8:46. And I have a bell that will hit, do our moment of silence, and then we'll start. And then we'll stop at 9:03, 9:37, 9:59, 10:03, and 10:28. So it's going to go from 8:46 to 10:28. So it'll be 102 minutes, which is exactly the amount of minutes the entire event took.
Exactly.
And then, benefit shows that night. We're going to after the climb, we'll go all over San Diego, like to bars and restaurants and, enjoy ourselves. But also we take that time to kind of educate people, because they see us, they see what's going on and they want to know more, So, because I have I'll take one of the flags with me. That flag has all the names. It has all 2,977 names on it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I've highlighted Dior's name in pink. She's like one of the top rows there.
Okay.
And then this other flag over here, this is the actual Flight 93 flag. And this was given to me by a gentleman. I think his last name is Melcher, Terry Melcher. He was the chief of the Shanksville Fire Department. And he gave that to me back in 2009, I think. And so I'll take one of the flags tomorrow. Being that it's the 20-year, I'll probably take the one with all the names on it. And it's it's an attention getter in the sense that people are very curious, like, okay, what is this? And when they see all the names, it's very overwhelming, to see that many names on a flag. And they were all taken in such a horrible fashion. And it's like, I want people to like identify, for me specifically, with Diora, like learn about her, read about her, find something you have in common with her. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, take her positive energy that she gives you and go out and make a difference in the world. There's so much negativity out there, and it's like,
it's absolutely disgusting. It's heart-wrenching.
But the opportunity is always presenting itself. It's like you have a choice. Like Debbie has told me this before. It's like you have a choice, and it's like you can go one way or go the other, and
absolutely.
And it's like, go out and make a positive difference in your community. It's like when people go to the memorial, it's like, I want them to walk out of there and be like, I don't want them to be like referring to our loved ones as victims or those poor people. Like, I can speak for a lot of family members, probably all of them. We hate the word victim because clearly they were not. I mean, they passed, but they did it on their own terms.
I don't like that word either.
That's the definition. They are the definition of a hero, and it's like, I just want people to go there, whether they go to the memorial or they hear the story from somebody like me or a family member. And it's like, once they've heard the entire story and they can understand and appreciate it, it's like, would I have been able to do what they did that morning and take that courage and selflessness that they showed and apply it to their own lives and go out in the world, make a difference.
Right. Absolutely.
That's my hope, that's what I would like to see. I want people to learn about everybody I want people to learn about these people that made this difference. And, they were ordinary human beings just like all of us, and that morning they did extraordinary acts, And part of me believes that, Diora was put on this earth for a higher purpose, and that higher purpose was that morning. She wasn't even originally on 93. She was on.
She was scheduled.
She was on United Flight 95, and she got to the airport early. Her best friend, who is a friend of mine, dropped her off, and Diora saw that she could get on 93 on a standby because it would get her back home earlier.
Right. And, I read that.
It's like, who would want to get home earlier? So, yeah. And, but that's the thing. It's like, she could have taken any other flight, you know what I mean? And she went on that one. And so to me, it makes sense. She was a selfless individual, and she was selfless all the way up to the final moments, as selfless as one can be. Right.
Absolutely.
And her selflessness just continues to filter down to the world,
It does. That's undying. That will never go away.
Yeah.
Nothing can take
that away.
It'll get stronger.
Yeah. But nothing can take that away.
I call it the 9/11 promise, meaning that, all of us now have to carry on the legacy of all of them who sacrificed and were selfless and were courageous and were heroic. That's the 9/11 promise, to carry that on and live that out and do good things.
Right.
That's what I call it.
And that's a great thing to call it. And I stand behind that 1,000%, a lot of choices had to be made that morning in a split second. And, they did what they did, and they did it successfully. Same goes for the firefighters in the towers. I mean, they perished, but they saved thousands of people, and it's like, it just tells you, like, it takes a real special person to just run towards danger without even thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you got families, you have a life, you have career, you have all these things in your life. And that's what a true hero is they don't think about any of that stuff. They go to help. They go, and, but at the same time, I think that their goal whether they were a firefighter or they were on 93, their goal was to get home that night. You know, their goal, it was not in their agenda to die. Their agenda was to either save as many people as possible and get out, or, you know, overpower 4 hijackers on a plane and make it home, you know. And that was just it. It's like you listen to the cockpit voice recorder in the final seconds, you know, whatever it is, 30, 40
that's
seconds.
heart-wrenching.
And it's like you hear the Arabic voices and you hear the American voices. And it's like all the way up to when it cuts off, when they hit the ground, they did not stop fighting them. I mean, it wasn't like they, you know, gave up. They never gave in and they never gave up. That's the thing. You know, they saw it through to the end and they saved an untold amount of people. And just the fact that they acted when they did, had they hesitated a few seconds, even right on the other side of the woods is, I think, Shanksville Elementary School. You know what I'm saying? So they could have easily hit that school. You know, I mean, God, talk about a terrible ending to a day. But because they acted when they did, they saved all the kids in that school and they saved an untold amount of people in Washington. I think they were, from what I heard, they were about 18 minutes flight time away from the Capitol. So
I read that too. Insane.
Yeah. You know, so.
And all of them together, every single one of them, including the crew, was put on that plane for a reason. You know, had it have been maybe a different group of people, maybe the outcome wouldn't have been the same, but all of them together combined into, you know.
Yeah, like you said, they all went on as strangers, and they, you know, in the face of adversity, they stood up as one, basically, and they said, you know, this is over. This ends now, and we're going to end it. You know, and and they did. And I couldn't be more proud of them.
No, me too. I mean, it's something that I think about every day, to be honest with you. I think about it every single day.
It lives with you every day. It's kind of like it's an extra limb, you know?
Yeah. So I love that. That's a good way to put it. Oh my gosh.
You know, and it's like, for me, some days it's like, you know, it pops in your head. And then sometimes I can just kind of, you know, deal with it quickly and get about my day. But there's, you know, a lot of days where I can't do that, you know, where I have to stop working, or I have to pull over if I'm driving, or, you know, if I'm up in the middle of the night thinking about stuff, it's like I have to go outside or whatever. It's, you know, and it is what it is, you know, it is what it is. So.
But there's comfort and solace, in my opinion, in carrying on Diora's legacy and the legacy of every soul that tragically lost their lives. And so that brings a sense of comfort and peace and solace, and I have to hold on to that. That's what I have to hold on to, you know. Right. So
absolutely.
What do you think, if Diora were here physically today, what do you think she would have to say after or about 9/11?
I think that the word that comes to my head would be disappointment. You know, and just the fact that 20 years later, you know, it's just really not any better. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, the situation in Afghanistan. I mean, that was a fresh kick in the gut also. I mean, it's like, it's just bringing you right back. And to know what happened there is just absolutely tragic. And, you know, obviously the financial cost of it is insane, like $1 trillion or whatever. But to me, it's the human cost that really bothers me the most. I mean, over 4,500 to 5,000 service members have been killed over there, you know, between Iraq and Afghanistan, and, you know, probably thousands upon thousands wounded. And, you know, because I have friends who served over there, and, you know, it changes them as people. You know, they come back different people, and a lot of them will come back and they feel their only purpose is to go back and fight because they're struggling here, and
Takes a special, very special person.
That's another war to me that we're dealing with, is the lack of respect and treatment our service members are getting when they come back home. That's something that really sickens me, and a lot of changes need to be made in that regard. The stuff they show on the news is the stuff they show on the news. I mean,
I can't stand the news.
Horror stories from people that have been over there, and I can't love them enough, though. I mean, to me, because I grew up in a military family. I've got family buried at Arlington, and my brother's a Marine, and to me, everybody that signed up post 9/11, they are carrying on Diora's legacy.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. One of my favorite, I think she said that this, I think she was 11. Oh my gosh. People ask who, what, where, when, why, how. I ask peace.
Yeah.
At 11 years old, writing that, Diora.
Yeah.
That goes to say something.
Yeah. It's a very profound, it's very profound in its impact.
Yeah.
Both the words themselves and the fact it came from her when she was such a young kid. I mean, she was truly one in a million, and she still is. That's the thing, her force of positive energy is just so great. It's like she's, in many ways, she's never left,
Exactly.
She's just everywhere now.
And that's going to grow stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just so grateful. I'll always cherish those times we had at the animal center. And, I've been back a few times, since it happened and everything. And it's kind of eerie and sad, to go there because, she's not there, but it's not so much she's not there. I mean, it's 20 years later, but she's not there for a very unfortunate reason,
Right. No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
So, beyond Helen Woodward, she was teaching kids how to read, and she was it was called the Read All Over program. And, when she was up in Santa Clara, she was doing that.
Yeah.
And she was just, you were drawn to her in so many ways, and that's the thing. It's going back to viewing the Flight 93 passengers and crew. You hear stories or you hear people say, yeah, I know, I remember, God, those poor people, and that it's no, it's more, you learn that story. And I want people to be I want to grow up and be just like them.
I love the way you look at it. That's exactly how it should be. Yes.
That's what then that's why because I've done presentations at elementary schools and middle schools and even San Diego State. And I tell people that all the time. I'm learn about Diora's story, or, read up on another crew member or a passenger, learn about their life, find a way to identify with them, and, model your life after them, what they did, before 9/11, I think that's the thing. If you look at probably the history of all the passengers and crew before 9/11, the kind of people that they were, it leads you to understand, okay, that's why this group of 40 were selected to stop further acts of terrorism on 9/11. Because of the kind of people they were, it's they were all together for that reason. At least that's my feeling. That's my belief. They were all together for that reason.
It's my belief too. It's yours, it's mine, and it's many others, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Some force out there that day said, these are the people that are going to end this, and this is why they're here. This is why they're on the earth. This is why they've grown up to be the people they are, is because they're going to do this today. And they will change the world forever. And that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. That is so beautifully said. And I could not agree more. I can't thank you enough for joining today. It has been such an honor to talk with you, and we have that common bond and the fact that we knew Diora, and I just have this warm feeling right now. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's great.
It is amazing. So tomorrow night at Brick by Brick is my annual 9/11 benefit show. And whoever's listening, I encourage all y'all to come out. It's a great time, amazing bands, and it's a great way to remember Diora and everybody who was lost that morning. And I certainly hope, Nicole, that you can make an appearance, because I feel a definite connection with you. Like a friendship has developed over the last couple of days. And
oh my gosh,
like I was
know.
saying before, this is another example of Diora working her magic.
Exactly.
This is what she does.
Without
she finds good people and she puts them together.
It's interesting. I told you this, but I'll share it again. I was out running last week, and I actually asked Diora and them too as well, everyone. I was like, who should I contact to see about coming on for an interview? And I kid you not, the next day it was like I was led to you. That sounds weird. I get it, but it's something that you can't explain. It's just weird.
I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. I totally believe in that stuff. I find the signs from her. I've got a part of my sleeve. I got a pink monarch for her, because she was a big fan of the butterflies. And funny story, I was working for the September 11th World Memorial back in, I think it was 2012 or 13, and we were putting the memorial together. And part of the memorial was this 788-pound piece of steel from the Trade Center, and and it had to be taken out of the truck on a forklift, because no way in hell we were going to lift this piece of steel. And we get it out, they put it on the pedestal, and the top of the steel, they have those, like, I guess they're almost like refrigerator magnets, the ribbons or whatever. Yeah. And they had one for prisoners of war missing in action, and ones for like the different military branches. And there was one on there for Flight 93 National Memorial. And I kid you not, I was looking at it, and out of nowhere, a orange monarch flies down and lands right on the 93 ribbon. And it stood there for like a solid minute probably. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And like, I started like bawling and like, but excited, and like everybody comes around and I was like, oh God, don't scare it off, And I knew it was her paying a visit. And literally like, I was like, don't move. Let me, and I got my phone and I snapped a picture of her. And within a second after I snapped it, she flew off. It was
there that's the synchronous.
I'll be walking and a butterfly will land on my shoulder, and sometimes I think I'll look down. It was one time I looked down and I swore I think it winked at me, it's like, oh my God, and just kind of flew off. It's just kind of her way checking in, hey, I'm here, you're good, don't worry, whatever. And
that's, oh gosh, with butterflies, I on my runs in the last week or so, I've seen so many of them flying right by me. It's
I think it's her way of just being like, she knows what time of year it is and she knows what's coming, but it's her way of like all those butterflies you're seeing. It's her way of saying, you're going to be okay. Yeah. I'm here.
Absolutely.
You're going to be okay. And it's that kind of reassurance. I get signs like that from my mom all the time. My mom passed from cancer a little over 2 years ago. And I get signs all the time, only signs that I would understand, but they're there. Yeah. And that's how it is with Diora. It's the same thing. Like, like other people maybe, it's like you tell them and they're like, oh, that's really cool. They can't understand it.
They can't understand it unless they experience it.
They experience it. And it's just this incredible feeling, There was one time when I was at the memorial for a friend's event and we were down at the sacred ground, and the grass was pretty high. I mean, it was like, I don't know, good 2 to 3 feet high, like that area down around the sacred ground. And behind it is the tree line. Yeah. And the grass, there was a section where it was just to the left of the impact spot where the grass was pushed. It almost looked like it was pushed down, and it was like an S, and it led back into the trees. And I remember looking at it, and I took a picture of it. And you look at it, and it's like almost like they came out of the trees. The whole group of them came out of the trees and like went back in.
Oh my
It's, like,
gosh.
it's so like, it's on this level I can't even express.
No, I know.
I'll have to show you this picture. It's incredible.
I would love to see that picture.
You know,
oh my gosh.
I just kind of got my eye when I was down there, and I looked, and that's, you know, like if you're walking in tall grass, it falls down. You know, it's pushed down. That's what this was like, and it's clear as day. And it's
my gosh.
Wait a minute, you know, and yeah, you know. So yeah, it's nice to get those signs, you know, that she's
very
okay,
comforting.
And,
yeah,
she's good, and you know, I'm sure she's just doing her great things wherever she's at now, and
absolutely.
You know, I'm just grateful that we can still have that connection. You know, while I'm down here and she's up there, you know,
that'll be eternal. You know, that'll be eternal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super my gosh, grateful. This has been such an amazing hour talking to you. Oh my gosh. I agree though too. We've kind of developed a little bond over the last week communicating through email. So
absolutely.
All meant to be. Again, I can't thank you enough for joining today. And then again, your benefit concert is what time tomorrow night?
It starts at 8. Doors are at 7:30. It's at Brick by Brick. Which is at 1130 Buenos Avenue. It's like Bay Park area. Yeah, right there off Marina. Yeah, so doors are at 7:30. Show starts at 8. There'll be 4 bands playing. If you like metal, you're going to see so it's 4 of like the greatest bands in San Diego. And some of the bands, they've done the memorial show numerous times. They're like veterans of the show, you know? So it's like, I definitely try to include them, and I try to include bands who have never done it, because it's like, you know, I want to give them opportunities as well to be a part of it. So it's like 2 bands are brand new to the show, and then 2 others are have played the show several times. So it's going to be a good batch of bands, and it's going to be a great night, man. I'm so excited, you know, and I'm just so grateful that music is back, you know, and it's been really hard these last however many months with no venues being open, and
I know.
Because that's my outlet is going to shows and doing shows, you know. So yeah, everybody come on down. It's going to be a great time.
Perfect. Oh my gosh, I would love to come. Sounds like such a great event for an amazing cause. So awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Great.
Well, you know how to get a hold of me, so you just let me know.
I got your number. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me today. Oh my gosh. There you have it, guys. Greg Kyling. Gosh, an amazing all-around individual. And thank you, Diora, for connecting us. Stay on for another couple of minutes because we have something coming up. But there you guys have it. Greg Kyling, San Diego, California, Friends of Flight 93, fundraiser and all that. You got it. I'm just speechless right now. So yeah, we have something special. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. But thank you again, Greg. And all right, bye. my gosh. Trying to clear my eyes here.
That was a great interview, and he had a lot of amazing points.
Yeah. He really did. It's so funny. Like him and I, something like drove me to finding him and messaging him. And I thought, you know what? Maybe he's not active. Yeah, right. He's probably not going to get back. And he emailed me back, and we kept in touch this whole week. But we created this bond. It's so bizarre. It's you can't explain that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, his benefit concert starts at, I think doors open at 7:30 tonight, and then it starts at 8. So here in San Diego at Brick by Brick. So it really was an amazing time talking with him. It's weird how the universe works. Yeah. So, but, how are you guys doing? Okay.
Okay. I mean, that brings back a lot of memories, of that day. And the people and just the chaos and the unity. I still can't get over that.
Yeah, exactly. And we're in the midst of this pandemic in many ways. COVID-19 really mirrors 9/11 in many ways. The country right now is so torn apart. And then this anniversary comes around every single year, almost like a reminder, kicking our butts. You know what? Come on. Remember the 9/11 promise. Let's go. Let's roll. And what Todd Beamer said, that's become such a legendary phrase. But yeah, this has been such an amazing show. But and my cat wants to say hello, of course.
Every time.
As usual, every single time. She's like, wait, I want to get in here as well. Oh my gosh, Kaylee, you're so funny. All right, so I'm going to read some stuff here. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but I'm going to try.
Well, if you can't, I'll pick it up.
There you go. I got to watch because my eyes are like going.
I know. Don't cross your eyes yet. Not allowed.
I'm over here going, I'm watching.
I know, right? Oh, I hate that when that happens. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, okay. American Airlines Flight 11 crew members, 76 passengers departing from Boston at 7:59 a.m. and made its way to the heavens at 8:46 a.m. United Airlines Flight 175, 9 crew members, 51 passengers, departing from Boston at 8:15 a.m. and made its way to the heavens at 9:03 a.m. American Airlines Flight 77, 6 crew members, 53 passengers, departing from Washington Dulles International Airport at 8:20 a.m., made its way to the heavens at 9:37 a.m. United Airlines Flight 93, 7 crew members, 33 passengers, departing from Newark International Airport at 8:42 a.m., made its way to the heavens at 10:03 a.m. South Tower 2 World Trade Center opened in September 1971, completed in 1973, inaugurated on April 4th, 1973, and made its way to the heavens at 9:59 a.m. on September 11th, 2001. North Tower 1 World Trade Center opened on December 15th, 1970, completed in 1972, inaugurated on April 4th, 1973, and made its way to the heavens at 10:28 a.m. on 9/11/2001. We also remember the 70 civil servants and 55 members of the U.S. Armed Forces who lost their lives at the Pentagon. We remember the 2,192 civilians who lost their lives in the North and South Towers. We remember the 343 firefighters and 71 law enforcement officers that sacrificed their lives in evacuating the nearly 17,000 individuals who were in the North and South Towers. We also remember the 10,000 plus first responders and other individuals who have been diagnosed with cancer due to the exposure of the debris from the North and South Towers. The 2,000 plus individuals who have later succumbed to their exposure to the elements on that day. We also remember the 6,000 plus individuals who were injured in the day's events. And we remember everyone who continues to live the 9/11 promise. Yes, it was an attack on on humanity, the entire world. Humanity never forgot, and we will never forget. Those who sacrificed themselves for others exemplified the embodiment of what it is to be an American, to be a human being. They executed their efforts to save others without even thinking. So we, now moving forward, continue on that courage, the bravery, the sacrifice, the selflessness, and the unity of that day. United we stand is embedded in our soul. Remember the events of 9/11 and channel them to do good things for the world. Let's honor the 9/11 promise and continue to carry out its legacy for our country, for our fellow citizens who were physically lost, but always remain in our hearts and souls. Our fellow brothers and sisters, the many heroes who sacrificed themselves that day to help others. For the 4 planes lost, 1 World Trade Center, 2 World Trade Center, and 7 World Trade Center. We remember, we honor, and we unite. Good night, everyone. In the early morning light of summer, terror eclipsed the sun, darkness covered skies, and shades of agony. There is no beauty in cruelty, but there is in rising above it. 'Twas the day of no return, when shock shook the world, flames seared hearts and souls, grounds dampened by falling tears. And from the searing ash of tragedy rose unity, humility, the common bond. There is no beauty in cruelty, but there is in rising above it. Deep within humanity, there lives a place of memory, in safe embrace for lives now gone. There is no beauty in cruelty, but there is in rising above it, where they have gone, where they have gone, where love instills the peaceful heart, and grace anoints eternal life, where they have gone, our angels beyond the skies.